Today, I woke up and thought to myself,
wow, what a perfect day to complain about a game that's not even out yet.
So let's do that.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record real quick, but it's no surprise how insanely popular Splatoon has become ever since it first released. We already know the full story: Wii U failure, Splatoon fresh, new IP, doubt, release, popularity, Judd, etc. And thank God it was a huge success, because at the time, nothing really was going right for Nintendo. Except for Smash and Mario Kart, I guess. But for the purpose of this video, let's act like they don't exist. And with this immense popularity, of course we would get a sequel.
But now within the 7-year gap of the first one, we would not only get a sequel, but a threequel on the very same console, which has divided the fan base by quite a lot.
Of course, you have the die-hard Splatoon fans that would be excited no matter what, but then you have the more cynical side asking, why is this game necessary? Well, today I'll be looking at both sides of the dispute and finding out once and for all if Splatoon 3 makes sense and why exactly it's coming out so soon in the first place. I mean, this was a topic more heavily discussed before, but I'm late to the party, okay?
But I think there's some things to be said that no one else has said yet. So this is the glass half full, and let's talk about if Splatoon 3 is really that necessary. Before I start stating my opinions, I scared myself by saying that. I think it's important to cover both sides of the argument so everyone's on equal basis of where people are coming from. Now again, these aren't my opinions, just gotta make that clear. So don't go attacking me in the comments before you watch the full video, and after you do that, you can bully me all you want.
So Splatoon 3 was first announced in a February 2021 Direct, where nothing was really shown off, but was slated for a 2022 release date and would also be on the Switch. Now for me personally, when I first saw this trailer live, I remember the first words I uttered out of my mouth was,
"Really? Already?"
And after that, I lost my shit, of course. This announcement was 100% an awesome way to end the Direct, but not only was it already time for another Splatoon game, but the fact that it felt so close to Splatoon 2, a game that was already on the Switch. And it's not like Splatoon was a series that could go through a complete overhaul of mechanics and features every installment, nor was it gonna be a fan favorite spin-off of the main series. It was just the same old squid kidding and squirtin'. And it's not like the Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2 transition, because that was over 2 consoles. And it's also extremely odd for the sole reason that, why is Splatoon the only game that's getting this kind of treatment? Especially considering how well the game did financially. Like, damn, that's a lot of squids. Like, maybe if the game wasn't that good, they could try to redeem themselves with a third installment, kinda like how they did with Super Mario Party and Superstars, but again, it was a massive success financially and critically.
But that leads me to say, out of every single Nintendo IP that should get a sequel on the Switch, they gave a second installment to the online shooter? Like, I could state 5 series off the top of my head that probably need a sequel more than Splatoon, like Mario Odyssey or ARMS, maybe. Okay, maybe I can't name 5, but you see my point.
Sure, there are some series that got a fairly warranted sequel on the Switch, like Breath of the Wild or Pokemon, but again, very different cases. Like, Breath of the Wild is a game that has endless amounts of creativity and freedom that warrants a sequel, and Pokemon, they really hate not making a new Pokemon game every year. Like, why can't we get a new Mario Kart for the system? The last one that came out was in 2017, and even that was a port, meaning we haven't gotten an official new Mario Kart in 8 years. Which is also kind of funny since Deluxe and Splatoon 2 came out a couple months apart. The only other big Nintendo multiplayer series that has done this thing before would be Mario Party, with most home consoles having at least 2 titles per system. Not the Wii U though, for very obvious reasons, and even up to 3 when it comes to the GameCube and N64. But that is also a different situation, since the Mario Party games don't have some sort of storyline and are just there to have a new gimmick and destroy close bonds. Alright then, how about the mainline Mario and Zelda games, huh? Nintendo makes a ton of those. Well, those games certainly feature the same character, but for something like Zelda that has 2 games on one system, being Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, those are 2 self-contained stories that feature the same mechanics but also feature brand new ones only native to that game, making it feel different enough. And for something like the new Super Mario Bros. Games, well, obviously, Nintendo was on crack.
Everything I've said made sense for these series to receive multiple entries on a console. But Splatoon is so online and community focused that making another one on Switch might end up splitting a community in half. Like, for one, the whole idea and mystique of Splatoon might go away once Splatoon 3 comes out. Now, I know mystique is a big word. Yeah, I know big words. But what do I mean by that?
Something like Smash will forever be an amazing series because we don't see it that often. There's always been a good 4 years of waiting between every release, and so it becomes special since once it comes and goes, we are not going to see it for a long while. However, if Smash released yearly, sure, it could still be popular, but the fact is we'll be getting one so often that we no longer feel that wow factor every time it comes out. And I hate to be a Nintendo, but I'm a virgin, what can you do about it? But that is why something like Call of Duty is so mundane at this point, is because we get so many yearly releases. And Splatoon 3 is kind of, but also not really in this camp, but I'll get to that later.
However, I do think this release could definitely lessen the coolness of Squidden and Kitten and make casual fans of Splatoon say, I already bought Splatoon 2, why should I buy this one? Especially for a series that doesn't really change anything gameplay-wise, and at face value, Splatoon 3 could look like... Splatoon 2.5.
And this is piled onto the fact that we may very well be in the last few years of the Switch's life cycle, so why should they bother release a third installment if the next console is going to come out a year or so afterward and put Nintendo in a pretty weird spot, since they should have a new Splatoon ready and fresh for the system, but Splat 3 just came out.
And maybe the mystique of Squidden and Kitten will be gone forever. Alright, let's get all that negativity out of the way. Get out right now. Yeah, right now. Get the fuck out right now. Yeah. That's what I thought. Bitch. And let's focus on the positives and why this game should be deemed necessary and why it could actually be the perfect time for this game to come out.
Now this sort of goes hand in hand about one of the biggest issues I was stating before, and that was about how Splatoon 2 and 3 were on the same console, and how it felt too soon for another one to come out. And well, it may feel like that, but that's honestly pretty far from the truth. While yes, both of these games are coming out on the same system, Splatoon 2 came out in 2017. It is fucking 2022, a full 5 years apart. And even after all the drip feed and DLC was done, the game fully concluded by July of 2019, and that was 3 years ago.
Let me just remind you that Splatoon 1 came out in June of 2015 and concluded in the summer of 2016, meaning that Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2 was actually a shorter waiting period than that of Splatoon 2 to Splatoon 3. Which I honestly don't blame fans for thinking like that, because time has truly lost all meaning at this point.
Moving swiftly along from my existential crisis, I feel as even though Splatoon is an online shooter, the world around Splatoon has always done such a good job of making it feel like each and every game is a whole different experience from the last. This is shown through the campaign with the ever-growing conflict of the Octarians and the Squid Sisters. Since the campaign isn't just like, oh, defeat the Octobros again, but there's underlying plot threads and stories that can carry over from game to game. So that means if you happen to skip a game in the series, you will be missing some plot points that'll make the game not really make sense to you. This is also shown through the squids themselves as they continue to get older in each game, and characters around you do as well. So it really never feels like Splatoon is just a mundane, atmosphereless game they just hop onto a match time to time, like Fortnite for example. Not saying Fortnite is bad, but nobody's clamoring for a second one because of the story or the characters, if you know what I mean. Splatoon is also an IP that has a very die-hard fan base that they would honestly not really care if it felt too soon for Splatoon 3. Like, people could be out here complaining about the logistics or whatever, but in the end, if the gameplay is mostly still the same as the other titles, there's no reason for them to really get upset about this.
Alright, I feel as though I gave both sides a justified explanation. Now it's time for me to give my own opinion. Take it away, me. So after examining the pros and cons, the advantages and disadvantages, the ins and outs, the fors and against, the gains and losses, okay, that was boring. A fucking course Splatoon 3 is necessary. While I still see some of the points the former side are making, the more I think about it, the more I lean towards Splatoon 3 coming out as it is right now. People are really acting as though Splatoon 2 just came out and Nintendo is milking the series for what it's worth instead of making an entirely new original game. And while I still prefer a Mario Odyssey sequel rather than Splatoon 3, or really prefer it actually, I am still super excited for this game.
First off, I should really mention that Splatoon does change up some of the mechanics from game to game, but I guess it really isn't that apparent. But the slight quality of life changes, like how the respawns now work, or how you can skip the intro cutscene, thank God, fucking finally, goes a long way when it comes to making a sequel. And that leads me to an even bigger topic of discussion, the term sequel and 0.5, especially 0.5. That number, or decimal, has plagued this series for years. And I've also gone on record saying Splatoon 2, and I quote, Splatoon 2 kinda felt like Splatoon 1.5. But after making that statement and seeing some comments, I really thought to myself,
should it really be called 1.5?
like, what makes a game feel like a 1.5 rather than a 2? The textbook definition of a sequel, or the one I found on Google, is a published broadcast or recorded work that continues a story or develops a theme of an earlier one. Which, isn't that what Splatoon 2 is? The story continued on from the first with the Octarians and the whole thing with Callie, and the whole big theme of Squidin and Kidden continues on with new stages, weapons, modes, and a completely different feature of Salmon Run. And that is a 1.5 now? Like, how about Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 then? Galaxy 2 is a 1-for-1 recreation of the Gravity game from before, but now with more worlds, some new power-ups, and a worse hub world. Hell, the game itself isn't even a continuation of Galaxy 1, it's just a reimagining. So shouldn't Galaxy 2 be called Galaxy 1.5?
I don't know, that's a completely different topic for another day, but my point is, Splatoon 3 should not be called a 0.5 or a deluxe in any way, shape, or form from everything we've been shown off so far. Now, the only thing I'm a bit iffy on right now is how this will affect Splatoon 4.
Again, we are 5.5 years into the Switch's lifespan, and at this point, it's time to start thinking just a little bit of when the next console is going to come out. And with how Splatoon works, you know how it comes out, but new shit does not stop coming out until a year or two later. It makes me wonder that when we are going to get a new Nintendo console, how exactly will Splatoon 4 work and when will it come out? And then that, I think, poses some interesting problems.
But like I always say when I make a bad decision that's gonna affect me badly later, that's a problem for future me, and this is a problem for future Nintendo. Yeah, that's good life advice.
The last thing I'll bring up, as I feel like everyone forgets a lot, is Splatoon is still a fairly new series. You know, since it's the very first third-person shooter ever. Alright, I'm kidding. It's because it's the first game that lets kids use guns. But the series itself is only 7 years old, which may seem like a lot, but then you remember almost every other Nintendo series and how they're probably older than you. Like Pokemon, for example, like, I love the series 100%, but they've had the exact same style and mechanics for decades now, and only recently have people really called them out for it, and they try to change up the formula since then. But Splatoon has such great gameplay and world building, and that it doesn't need to be revamped or overhauled for the time being, and we should just enjoy the games we keep getting. And if they do mess up hard or show to be lazy, then we should be able to call them out for it. So basically, just enjoy Splatoon 3. It looks amazing, and the fanbase deserves 2 entries on the Switch.
The game comes out in a couple of days.
Hopefully, if this video comes out on time, please.
So let's wait patiently to see what happens. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go accept the fact that we've had 3 Splatoon games inside of 1 Mario Kart release. Ah yes, hello, is this therapy?